Dumelang. Welcome to Face the Nation. My name is Clement Manyatela. It's great to have you with us here on SABC News. On the show tonight, so coming up on the show, we're going to be speaking to the party's alliance partners that are not happy with the African National Congress. They're expressing unhappiness about the relationship between the ANC and the DA in the government of national unity. So if they feel so strongly about this GNU and they feel it won't represent the interests of workers, why are they still in this alliance? The House President Mike Shingange will speak to us tonight. Also on the show, crime has reached crisis levels in this country. Communities are under siege. People are no longer feeling safe in their homes, at school, at church, at work, at the mall. And criminals are becoming more and more brazen, and South Africans are looking towards the police to protect them. But how do they do that, right, when the police can't effectively have the capacity and the financial muscle that they need? How do they do that when there is a trust deficit with the citizens? The new police minister, Senzo Mchunu, is going to be joining us tonight. And then later on the show, what is it going to take to resolve the dysfunction in our municipalities? The new Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Velenkosini Hlabisa, says dissolving dysfunctional municipalities and putting councils for re-election may be the solution. But how would that work? He's going to explain that to us tonight. But first, my comment. So last week Thursday, our show focused largely on the VBS looting following the arrest of the kingpin Chifiwa Matodzi. Since then, his affidavit has been leaked, and it mentions a number of people, including former Director General Dondo Mukhajani, the SACP, and the EFF President Julius Malema, and the Deputy President Floyd Shivambu. Matodzi claims that he met with the two at the time that the party was criticizing VBS for the loan that former President Jacob Zuma secured with the bank. So he argues in his affidavit that he offered the EFF a 5 million rand donation and a 1 million rand monthly amount that would be coming to the party. And he says after the meeting, there was actually an understanding between him, Malema, and Shivambu that the donation meant gratification. Hence, the two didn't provide him with the EFF's own banking details. Now, it's important to understand that this man is a convicted criminal, right? His evidence still needs to be tested. But that doesn't stop the people he has fingered from giving us their versions and coming out to assure you that these allegations are false. And assuring you doesn't end with a statement that they release, especially if they're innocent. If they have nothing to hide, if they are confident in their version, why are they not talking? Why are they not subjecting themselves to have their versions tested? Floyd Shivambu and Julius Malema have not taken any interviews to explain themselves, as people mentioned in the affidavit. And this is the first time that a kingpin, the man at the center of this fraud and corruption, is speaking. This is the first time that he mentions all of these players. So it's a significant development. And to be fair on the EFF, at least even though Shivambu and Malema are not doing interviews, at least they've deployed someone from the party to speak on the issue. The former EFF chairperson, Advocate Dalim Mpofu. The rest of the people have not even bothered. Here's what Advocate Dalim Mpofu told my colleague Stephen Groters on SAFM this week.
Doesn't matter which vehicle is used to for a donation. That's not a crime either, by the way, Stephen. Whether if you the SABC is giving a donation, if it says, well, we'll use the SAFM account or this or that other entity, PTY Ltd, just like the donations that were given in the CR17, that 1 billion rand, all that money was done through SPVs. Why it's done through SPVs, you can ask the people who are doing it. But is it a crime No, it's not a crime that the money should come through a particular entity.
The difference, of course, is that this is not just any money. This is money that may have come from VBS. Money that the poorest of the poor in and around Venda, many of them poor, invested in the bank. That's the money that we're potentially talking about here. But that's part of their version. Are you satisfied with that? Or do you want to hear directly from the people mentioned? Now, the SACP's Jacob Mamabolo was also mentioned by Matodzi. He claims that the SACP's conference back in 2017 was paid for by VBS. And you would have thought that by now, the SACP would have released a statement. They've gone to ground. Interviews have been requested several times, and nothing has come of that. What does that tell you about the SACP, the so-called vanguard of the working class? The working class are the most affected by this VBS fraud and corruption, and they haven't said a word. And they are comfortable with that. Donto Mokgajane is the former Director General at Treasury. Matodzi also mentioned him in the affidavit. He says he has paid 1 million rand to him. And that's a payment that was intended for Dondo to intervene and to facilitate the withdrawal of the National Treasury letter and to grant VBS Mutual Bank a special dispensation of 18 months for it to continue to accept municipal investments. He has explained, Matodzi, how this money was paid through other people associated with Mokgajane. But Mokgajane has since denied the allegation. He released this statement after that affidavit got leaked.
I categorically deny I have never taken any money from anybody. I've served this country for 23 years. The last 5 years was as DG of National Treasury. My record is very clear in terms of how I ran the department and how I conducted business during my tenure as DG and during my tenure as a public servant over the last 23 years.
That's a statement that he released, but he hasn't availed himself to be interviewed to also assure you that he's an innocent man. So he can take questions and give us his version. I saw that the National Treasury has come out to also say the allegations against him are yet to be tested in court. So they seem to be taking a wait-and-see approach. All I'm saying is, all the people that have been mentioned by Matodzi, if they have nothing to hide, if they are so disgusted like the rest of us by these claims, and if these claims are false, why are they not coming out and speak? Why are they not availing themselves for accountability? Not because they're guilty, but because they understand how this scandal has devastated people in and around Venda, people who have now died with broken hearts, people they claim to represent. Why are they not coming out to be emphatic and say, we have nothing to do with this? Or at the very least, if the monies that have flowed, apologize and take accountability. Why do they not have that compassion and sympathy? Do they not feel that the people who had invested monies in this bank deserve some answers? If they don't want to be linked in any way to this corruption, why are they not coming out to have their version tested? What I'm asking you tonight is, are you satisfied with how those that are mentioned in the affidavit have responded to the claims? What do you expect them to do? There are some that are suggesting that if there's really evidence of monies that have flowed from VBS into their accounts in some way, they must just apologize and pay it back. What are your thoughts? Please send us a WhatsApp voice note now on 078 459 1897. Remember to tell us your name and surname and where you're sending the voice note from. And please keep it at 30 seconds. Alternatively, you can send us an X on @FaceTheNation SABC. After the break, we'll speak to Nehawi's president, Mike Shingange. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, with the constitution of the Government of National Unity a done deal, it still faces some serious pushbacks from some quarters of the ANC alliance. Some alliance partners at Nahau's National Political School expressed their opposition to the ANC's inclusion of what they call neoliberal parties like the DA into the GNU. Now, the president of the Nahau is Mike Shingange. He joins us now in studio. Mike, thank you so much for making time for us. Good evening.
Good evening, Clement, and thanks for having us.
One of the things you spoke about at this gathering is how you are bleeding members. Why do you believe that members are leaving you as a union because of your association with the ANC?
Well, that is historically, it's not starting now. And in fact, I saw in one articles that we said it's because of GNU. It's not because of that. In a country that has got a political polarity and a different political ideology, the fact that we are affiliated to the COSATU and stay with the ANC has always been caused a serious, robust discussion in our meetings. And as a result, from time to time, when times for elections comes and we come to a conclusion of campaigning and supporting for one political party over the other, there will be those workers who are not members of either of the political party or the political party of our choice as a movement. And as a result, from time to time, in order for them to exercise their political freedom of association, they might sometimes choose to leave the union. So it's not it's a statement we're making in response to an observation made by some leaders of the ANC that it looks like unions in COSATU have not played their role during these elections. So we're trying to explain how much we have suffered, both materially and also in terms of human capital during these elections, because of now that the new parties have come in. Other workers will have to leave and join other parties because where we are, we're staying with the ANC.
Okay, so are you comfortable there with that position to stay with the ANC even when you are bleeding members? I would have thought that your first priority and consideration becomes the worker. Let's unite the worker, and then you'd rather compromise that association with the ANC. What approach are you comfortable with as the unions?
And that's what we're doing. We have always harbored members of many political parties. I mean, for years we have existed with members in KwaZulu-Natal who didn't belong to the ANC, belonged to other political parties. For years we have harbored members in Western Cape who belong to the DA. Even today, they still sit in our structures. There's no requirement for the membership of the union to be a member of another political party. Even when COPE were formed. You remember that COPE, when it was formed, it took away a president of the federation, a leader that was loved by workers. Obviously, he took workers away from him. So the point we're making today is not new. When COPE was formed, it took away a former general secretary of COSATU, a loved leader by the workers. And in other provinces, the starting followed. So workers followed their leaders that they used to follow at the federation or at the unions. And then when they went to political parties, they went. So that's the point we are making, because when there comes a time when a particular leader decides to break ties with the alliance, any of the alliance, the workers who were supporters of that leader themselves sometimes find themselves having to follow that leader. So it's not a new thing. But we have at no point that we have chastised members for belonging to other political parties. Our task is to unite workers.
So when you're speaking about bleeding members, that's got nothing to do with your association with the African National Congress.
That's what I'm saying. And I told you off air that your problem is that you were not there. So the SABC was not...
Which is why we've invited you to come and clarify these things.
But the point you are staying on, it's out of context of what I was addressing.
I'm asking for context.
So it is when I'm saying I was responding as we analyze the political moment of the aftermath of the elections, what has happened to all political parties, all organizations, including organizations of workers, but also some statements by some other people about the role that workers will have played during the elections, which brought us a 40%. We're explaining and thanking the workers, because it's a central executive committee, which is the highest decision-making body between congresses. They were the volunteers. They were the ones who were on the ground during the election. We're appreciating and thanking their role. They vigorously campaigned. We're now therefore making a point that it's unfortunate that there will be some people out there who think that workers did not contribute. In fact, so that's the point we're making, we actually even belated members for our stance during this time of supporting and campaigning for the ANC. There are members who have left us. Maybe there are members who have left us because of our association with the ANC, because of our campaign of the ANC. It's not starting now.
Okay.
Yes.
So why do you stay with the ANC still if because of that association with the organization, there are some members that leave you?
There will be no political party that will go to that will not result in us building members, because we have got a freedom of political association in this country. There will be no neutrality that will guarantee a trade union of not building members because it is not associated with any political party. Number one, we are we are a union that is political oriented. We are born out of the Congress movement. That is why even those members who love the union for what it does on behalf of workers, those members of GNU and other progressive unions like us who defend them and fight for their socio-economic interests will stay in it even though they know that we belong to another political party, but also will never oppose it internally, because that becomes, from time to time, a Congress resolution. It's not a decision of a leadership of a union. It's a decision of the majority of the workers who come together and continuously, elections after the election, reaffirm their commitment to stay in the what we call the people's camp, the revolutionary movement. So it's not a question of why do we. We are not a trade union for politics for se. So the political association is not the only reason that is going to make us to stay in this and not stay in this.
But the association still has to serve you and serve the workers as well. What's your solution there? I'm sure as COSATU, as Nahau, you don't want to continue bleeding members because of the association, unless, of course, you are now comfortable with that and you say we are going to stick with the ANC because that's how we were founded. We don't have a problem with losing more members. Or do you have a different approach to, okay, because we've lost so many, we've lost this amount of members over the years because of this association, this is the new approach that we're now going to take?
Yes, and before I answer your latest question, let me repeat my earlier question. There's no political party that we will move into that will guarantee lack of loss of members. There's no neutral stance political that any union can adopt that is going to guarantee workers not moving. And then the kind of a trade union movement we are as Nahau is that one of no political neutrality. That's the third point I made. I repeat again. It is always a decision of workers, the majority of them. That's why it is, much as we're losing some members, we continue to attract more members because it's not a decision of leadership, it's a decision of the majority of them, but at an appropriate platform where they must make a decision. Now, what we are beginning to do here in this meeting, because it's a political school, it's analyzing the political moment, is to begin a discussion about how do we handle a situation like that in future. We, as you know, we are journalists, we have always covered politics. You have always covered trade union. You've always covered the ANC, the SACP. You have never heard the ANC that it has, in the meeting of its highest decision-making board, having an implosion or at least a division amongst themselves because of their choice towards workers. So the point we are beginning to have, a discussion we're beginning to have, is how to manage a situation where sometimes we get fragmented, sometimes we get divided, sometimes we lose members because of our discussions about the political direction. It's a discussion we're starting. That's why we're in a political school. We're not in the constitutional structure to make a decision, but we're initiating an assessment. Because the current political moment we are in and the future political horizon will require a trade union movement that will want to think different and act different. It doesn't mean moving away from the alliance, it may mean something else.
Let's talk about the current political environment. You've described the GNU as the pact of the political elite. Is this a GNU that you think serves the interests of workers?
No. The GNU is there, and the government have to move on. We will react and interact with GNU the same way we'll interact with any other government. We are of the view that the workers' movement has to strengthen themselves to be vigilant so that the gains that they have so far and the rights that they have are not reversed simply because there's a GNU. Workers have always fought for, attained some, and even defended their rights, even when there was no democracy in their country. It's not unique to this country. We have existed before democracy. We were able to win some gains. We were able to fight for our rights, even when we were not in government. And
you don't want a government that's going to reverse those gains?
No government must be allowed to reverse. We can tolerate slow pace of progress, but what we can't tolerate is any reversal. So the GNU must know, and whoever must know that when you touch and reverse the rights and the gains of workers, obviously you are inviting a fight with the workers. So when we're describing it as a political elite, as a pact of political elite, it was not in the context of what it represents in terms of the rights of workers, but it was in the context what has been peddled out there, that this is what workers, the voters voted for. It was in the context of us as members of the union and some of us being members of the ANC being also voters of the ANC, that when we went to the ballot, there was no question in that ballot paper about which political party must work with which political party. There was no choice in that ballot about whether you want these following people to work together.
But you know the ideologies and policies of the different parties that are in the GNU.
So we voted, all of us who voted, even those who may not have voted for the ANC, voted for a political party that was appealing to them in terms of policies. When that party did not win the outright majority, the political elite then came together and decided what is in the best interest of themselves. And then they came together and formed a government. That is why, Clement, all of them, including my party, the ANC, will have spoken during the elections and before of a need of a reduced cabinet. But none of them proposed that when it was now about themselves and not about the rest of us who voted. So that what we were disputing in that platform of the political school, Clement, was that it is not true that we chose the kind of the vehicle they chose to use to form a government. We accept that they are political parties, but they must not say that's what else was, because we come from a democratic tradition. We should have been said, we didn't win election. That one didn't win election. Here we are. Here are the choices. What is the best choice that we can go through? So we have come to accept. We respect that. We're going to work with it. We're not going to chastise anybody, but we're just refusing to be told that this is what we wanted. It's not.
Okay. The SACP, Solima Paila, was here on the show before the elections, and he said if the ANC does go into some kind of coalition with the Democratic Alliance, then the SACP is going to review its relationship with the ANC and review its part in the alliance. Do you agree with that position? Is it something that is also being discussed in these political gatherings?
No, I will not speak for the SACP.
I'm asking about COSATU and Nehau now.
So Nehau have made its point clear during the election. That's the reason why we're vigorously campaigning that the ANC must not find itself in the situation where it's forced to have a coalition. Because once they go into a coalition, our manifesto is not going to be implemented. Nobody's manifesto is going to be implemented. There's going to be a consolidation of the policies. And we know what DA stands for. They have, on the 2nd of May, declared workers the enemy number one of the state. They marched to COSATU House. They accuse us that through the national minimum wage, that's why there's unemployment. We know that the DA is a shop steward and the representative of capital. And the capital is the reason why there's a lot of unemployment is coming, not the national minimum wage. So because they've declared us as enemy number one of the state, why must we not feel that they are enemies of the workers? Because they've declared workers as enemies. We're not talking about review. We're not going to review. We have accepted COSATU has no position that they're going to review our relationship because the ANC have chosen to work with the ANC, with the DA. But we have made our point that we would have preferred something different. We didn't get that. We are not a political party. We didn't contest the election. The ANC contested the election. We accept the choice they've made. But it doesn't mean that we must not make our view and how we feel about that relationship. Because we know what they stand for. They stand for everything else that we stand against.
Okay. Let me ask this, especially because, as you know, how even COSATU broadly, you care a lot about the rights of workers. I'm sure you've seen, as a federation, Chifiwa Matozi's affidavit and how it mentions the SACP. He says that there was VBS money that paid for the SACP conference back in 2017. As a federation that has actually taken a position that those that have benefited from this needs to be held accountable, what's been your position on your alliance partner, the SACP?
On what?
What's your position?
On who?
On your partner, the SACP, which you are in alliance with together with the ANC.
Well, I will speak about the VBS as a matter as a whole. And we have always made it a point that all those who, in fact, at that time when this thing of VBS started, we used to have a slogan in Limpopo that all who have eaten the man must vomit. It doesn't matter who. If you remember, I was serving the Provincial Executive Committee of the SACP in Limpopo. Our Provincial Secretary at some point was fingered. That PC has to ask him to be suspended. It was not an easy thing, but we had to suspend it. We didn't pronounce any guilty on him. To date, we have not had any verdict about it. But at that time, to preserve the position of the party in the ADPC, we have to take that decision. It's an emotional thing for us in the left, in the COSATU in particular, because those comrades that were killed, the Samo leadership, if you remember, Titi, Musaj, Timson, if you remember Ronnie Mann, they were campaigning against this looting. They were shot, not because of some criminal, because of they stood with us and they stood for the state institution not to be looted. So we'll not comment on the allegations about the leaders of the Communist Party. We think at the appropriate time.
Why can't you comment about that?
No. What we're commenting on the principle. It doesn't matter.
But why can't you comment about that? There are many times when Jacob Zuma has faced allegations. You were quick as COSATU to call him out. There's many times when the ANC has been involved in some things that you were very quick to say, this is wrong. Why can't you comment now about the SACP? Because they're ducking and diving. They don't want to come and speak. So I'm asking, as an alliance partner, people that have campaigned and have been passionate about fighting for the rights of those poor people who have invested money in VBS, what do you say to your alliance partner? Did you pick up a call and say, what is going on here?
Maybe you didn't listen to my question. We are commenting on a principle. I even told you about a provincial we suspended as an SSP, as I'm sitting as the president of COSATU and of NIHAO. So it's not true that we have not called people out. We even acted, those that states we have got the capacity to act on them. The SSCP have got consular structures that is always managing this thing in terms of, so until they themselves make a particular point, as we were calling them out here, the comment will be, whether it's Jacob Zuma, as you mentioned it, whether it's Solomon Paila, whether it's the SACP, whether it's the ANC, if there's something that needs to be held accountable for, or at least comment and clarify, we're making a call that they must do so that they remove the cloud.
But what do you expect them to do? If there's money that was paid for their conference, what do you expect them to do?
I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah, I'm saying if there's money that flowed to the SACP that paid for their conference, as an alliance partner, what do you expect them to do?
They must clarify and they must say what is it that they're going to do with it.
No. If there's money from VBS, it's proven, it paid for the SACP conference. Are you saying they must just clarify?
No, they must take the nation into confidence.
And do what?
What do you want me to say to call them to do?
Well, you've been you've taken a very tough stance against other people, and I'm saying, why are you not being consistent here? Why are you not saying they need to come out, they need to apologize, whoever facilitated that money has to be held accountable? Why are you not mentioning these things, but you're always quick to do it with other political parties?
If I say they must apologize, it means we have come to a point where we believe...
No, if. That's why I said if. If there's money, it's proven that money is paid.
I'm not going to speak about if. What I'm going to speak about it now is that for the fact that they are mentioned and the name of the party is being tarnished, we agree with you. They can't be quiet for so long. They must come out and say what is it that they know, so that we are able to make our correct pronouncement based on what they will say about what they know. At this point in time, we don't know what is it that they know. We don't know what is it that, according to their version, is a fact and it's not a fact. We're not going to be on the speculation here.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. Thank you so much for coming through, Mike.
Sure.
That's where we're going to leave it with Mike Shingange, who's the president of NIHAO. After the break, we're going to speak to the police minister, Senzo Mkhulu. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, we've been asking you the question tonight on Face the Nation about what you are expecting the people that have been mentioned in that affidavit by Chifiwa Matodzi. What are you expecting them to do? There are some that have come out to clarify their positions. In the case of the EFF, we played you a clip of Advocate Dalimpo for speaking on behalf of the economic freedom fighters. Dondombo Khajani released a statement. We played it for you. But none of the people that have been directly mentioned by Chifiwa Matodzi have made themselves available to have their versions tested. The SACP has not even released a statement. So what do you make of how they have been responding? But also, is there more that you expect from them is a question we've been asking. We'll be showing you some of the tweets, your response, but also playing some of the WhatsApp voice notes that have come through. Let's look at this now. The newly appointed Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Velenkosini Hlabisa says national government will start strengthening its hand on poorly run municipalities. He says the department has many interventions in place, including placing municipalities under administration or dissolving council. The minister joins us tonight on Face the Nation. Minister Hlabisa, thank you so much for making time for us. Good evening.
Good evening, Clement, and the viewers of this program in SABC tonight.
So you have prioritized stabilizing local government by dissolving these dysfunctional municipalities. Do you think if interventions do fail, the best option is to put up councils for re-election?
Thank you very much, Clement. Let us put things into a correct perspective. The question was, when I said our first priority will be dysfunctional municipality, the first thing that you do with an underperforming municipality that is dysfunctional, you firstly engage them to identify why are they not performing. They will tell you, and then you create a program with them that let us assist you. You deploy a representative, someone with skills, and he works out a plan of coming out of a poor performance status. And if a municipality cooperates, it is exempted from the status of being a dysfunctional municipality, and you withdraw a representative, and the municipality carries on serving the people it have to. But you come across a municipality which is not cooperating, you put time frames, they don't respect them, you try to assist them, that is this how you must compile a report, they don't compile the report. The question will be, why are you having a mayor, deputy mayor, speaker, and councillors who are earning a salary at the end of the month?
Yeah.
They are refusing to cooperate. They are not rendering services to people.
Yeah, and often, Minister, the problem lies with the political parties. At the end of the day, they are the ones that are voting. So if there are still squabbles between them and they continue to fight over positions like we've seen them do, then that paralysis is going to continue.
Then how long should you allow that as a government to continue at the expense of the ratepayers who pay rates but are not receiving the services they do? They can't have water, road is not maintained, potholes in front of where they live. You see, Clement, I think our approach should be, we need to reach a turning point. We need to say, if you perform, carry on performing. If you refuse to cooperate and you do not want to perform, people are protesting because they are not receiving services.
Yeah.
Yet you have someone who is earning a salary every month, not doing anything. There should be a line which must be drawn somewhere, then to spend the whole 5 years, people protesting of no services from a poorly performing government.
Is our legislation, though, Minister, as things stand now, strong enough to help stabilize local government, especially where there are coalition governments?
A number of municipalities, Clement, that are dysfunctional are not necessarily coalition governments. They are majority government under one political party, but the problem is the attitude of people who are involved. Let me make an example for you, Clement. You see, today we're tabling a budget, 395.7 billion. 97% goes to municipalities. And you give people money, and then you say, account, what did you do with the money? They don't give the report. You send people to assist them, how to compile a report. They say they built a hall. The hall is not there. The Auditor General gives a disclaimer because he says, I can't even audit.
Yeah.
Year after year, you are finding a similar situation, when are you going to draw the line?
Mm-hmm. So part of the reason why, and you're right, obviously there are some municipalities that are not hung where there's still this level of dysfunction, but we have also seen the dysfunction in metros where there are coalitions, which is why I'm asking about the legislation. But to follow up on your statement, part of the reason why there's so much dysfunction at local government is that some of our public officials don't have the skills and the capacity for the positions they occupy. There was an assessment, I remember, that was compiled by SALGA, the South African Local Government Association, that found that 62% of councillors had been unable to use basic computers, something like that, basic computers to enable the passing of crucial municipal budget. Even the presidency also indicated a while back that only 53% of senior municipal managers meet the minimum competency level. So if this is a reality you're dealing with, of course there's going to be dysfunction.
Clement, you are speaking to a councillor for 24 years, from 1995 to 2019, dealing with the deep rural municipality. How do you come to employ a person who is not competent? That is where the problem begins. If you have councillors who will employ people with no competency, then you must appreciate that you have a bigger problem. If you have councillors who know what is their function and who know who you must employ for a particular position, you will not have a problem of employing people with no capacity. But in most cases, Clement, the municipalities that are dysfunctional, some of them have people with good skills and expertise. Where is the problem? The problem, you will find it, they sometimes deliberately take a wrong decision. They will want to employ someone who was number 5 in the interviews and not take number 1. Why? Political reasons. They will deliberately refuse, even if the manager advises them that this decision is against the law. They will say, no, we don't worry. We have made it in our mind, we are taking this decision. Now, how long should you carry on with such people if in the midst of doing that, they are not giving services to you as a ratepayer? You don't have water. You don't have road coming to your house. You know, the point I was trying to explain there was assist, send people to help the municipality. The councillors must comply. When the administrator advises them that this is not right, what you want to do, they must listen to him. In most cases, they say, you are not the first one to come here. You will leave like others. How long are you going to allow that to continue? How long are you allow spending money, receiving no results in terms of reports? So let me conclude my point, Clement. All I am saying is, if you want to make every municipality work for its people, you must draw a line at a certain point. That is, either you cooperate or there is no need for you to exist if you don't serve the people who elected you.
Yeah, and sometimes, I mean, we talk about councillors themselves. How capacitated are they? Because sometimes the problem is political parties don't deploy people with capacity, even the councillors they deploy in the councils, and that causes the problem. So until government, local government is professionalized to ensure the culture of competence, then I imagine we're not going to go anywhere. Because I wonder, Minister, I often wonder how there are certain councillors who deal with complex issues, you know, some of them financial, that are facing municipalities. And I guess it doesn't help that legislation doesn't require that these councillors must at least have some minimum education level. So what do you think is the downside of that? Because that's a political process. But the reality is these councillors have to read financial reports. They have to hold the executive accountable. But how do they do that when they themselves don't have the necessary capacity. I know COGTA often, or was it SALGA, that sometimes spends time taking them to school and training them, when actually political parties should just be intentional about deploying councillors that actually have capacity. And they're not deploying people because, oh, this is someone who's been with the party for long, even though they don't have the capacity to deal with the issues that councillors have to deal with.
Clement, in this platform on Saturday, there was a municipality that was on this platform. In a period of 32 months, it has changed mayors 3 times. I doubt all these mayors, academically, they don't have competency. As far as I'm concerned, it is more than competency. There are many municipalities that are doing well, are not classified as dysfunctional, because councillors, when they are advised by municipal managers who are paid to do so, they listen to the professional advice by the employees. What is normally common in dysfunctional municipalities? The councillors do not listen what the administration is saying. In most cases, when a person advises, they say, we hear what you are saying, but this is what we want. We want number 5 out of the interviews, not number 1. And that is not done by the fact that they did not go to school and have a high capacity in terms of qualification. If sometimes you want someone who will listen to you, who will not oppose you even when you are doing a wrong thing, you will prefer that person being number 5, not being number 1 in terms of competence. So now the bottom line, Clement, the councillors have a responsibility to deliver services. And if they have some deficiencies, they must cooperate when they are being assisted. When you deploy someone to help them how to draw up financial statements, they must cooperate. But if you deploy help, they don't cooperate. Year 1, year 2, year 3, when are you going to draw the line?
But what's the long-term plan? How long is government going to constantly spend and deploy that help? I remember your predecessor, Tembing Kadimeng, indicated that perhaps there's a need to relook at policy. Do you think that there's a need to look at the political system and what it allows? Because if political parties know that whoever they send to council has to have, let's say, matric, that eliminates the money that SALGA spends or that COGTA now has to spend to try and deploy help to people who don't understand financial statements, for instance. Like, does it make sense to have councillors who have no matric, but they're expected to hold an MMC of finance, for instance, accountable? And yes, some of them may be able to do so, but some just don't understand some of the basic principles, and they're expected to discuss budgets, loan facilities, right? You have a mayor with no matric or a mayor with just a matric. Isn't there a need for us to relook at that political system and put a responsibility on the political parties to start deploying councillors that are fit for purpose? And it doesn't have to be people that are highly qualified, but people just have just a basic understanding of how things work in council.
Clement, all political parties, as we speak today, they know that you need to deploy competent people. Really, I will be surprised. Clement, I said I've been a councillor for a long time. I know many mayors in terms of competence. They know what has to be done. But most who are in dysfunctional status, they choose to do what is not right, not necessarily because they don't have matric. Some are really highly qualified, but they choose to do what they like. All political parties, as far as I know, including mine, you know that if you want someone who is going to be a mayor, it must be someone who must be able to read financial statements. It must be someone who must be able to read the circulars, read the acts. A speaker, it must be someone who must know the rules of how to run the council. We all know as political parties, until we face the truth that we deploy people with trust in them. Once they are in position, they decide to do something else, which eventually bring the municipality into a dysfunctional state.
There's been criticism in the past that COGTA often intervenes when it's way too late already in the municipalities that are dysfunctional. So often either they are not keeping tabs on the municipalities and their performance, or they've really not acted with urgency when there are red flags that have been raised, even from some within the municipality. So they are so reactive that by the time they want to intervene, it's already too late. The rot has deepened. How do you, as the Minister of COGTA now, what are you going to do to ensure that there's urgency whenever you are responding to, an SOS coming from municipalities that are dysfunctional, so that you not only intervene at the time when it's already too late?
For instance, Clement, right now, we are in the mid-term from 2021. Obviously, in 2022, it would not be easy to intervene because people are still finding their foot on the ground. But in 2023, you have already established who are coping and who are not coping, and those who are not coping, you are deploying people. In front of me, Clement, as I'm speaking to you, I have a dashboard of all 257 municipalities classified dysfunctional, medium risk, low risk, stable. Now, if I zoom in to dysfunctional municipalities right now, the report tells me an intervention was done in 2022. A highly qualified administrator was deployed to assist the municipality, and there was no progress. A further attempt was done in 2023. There was no progress. Now is 2024. What we need to do, even us, we need to visit there and ask a question. Why have you not been able to submit the annual financial statements for the past 2 years? Yet there are people who are assisting you how to compile the financial statement. Some other places you will find that there is no cooperation. Then the question therefore, Clement, is how long are you going to provide support against non-cooperation, yet poor service delivery, people protesting, wanting services? Why are you not drawing line to people who are clearly demonstrating that they want to cooperate? Lastly, when the Auditor General gives a disclaimer, the Auditor General says, I can't even start doing auditing because basic things, the invoices are not there. Why invoices are not there? If you escalate prices, you won't have invoices because people will tell you that a spade or a wheelbarrow cannot cost 15,000. Definitely you won't have an invoice for that wheelbarrow which costed 15,000 because the Auditor General will say, no, it can't be. You deliberately knew you inflated prices.
Yeah. Oh, it's shocking what sometimes happens in the municipalities. Just lastly, the issue of consultants.
It's not bad, Clement.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as we may be surprised. It is just very few municipalities. You will get a report very soon. We will table a latest development in terms of how many municipalities are dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And we have a plan. How are we going to intervene? You might find that you have 3 or 4 municipalities which are really a problem, which is not as bad as 257 municipalities.
Well, Minister, having read the Auditor General's report almost every year when she publishes them, it's a bad situation. She herself describes it as crisis level, so it is quite bad. So the sooner there's ways to actually deal with it, the better. I want to ask quickly about the issue of consultants. What's your approach to that? Because sometimes municipalities use consultants for work that should actually be done by people within the municipalities, right? If you have a CFO, for instance, why are you going to get a consultant who's going to do the work of the CFO that you pay? Sometimes that's an opportunity to embezzle money and to steal. But sometimes it's a matter of just no lack of capacity to do that kind of work, and we've already addressed that. What is your position as the new Minister of COGTA when it comes to the reliance on consultants by these different municipalities?
We are going to discourage the use of consultants because in most cases, the consultants do not transfer skill because they want to continue being used by the municipality at a cost. In most cases, you find consultants on finance department. Fortunately, the treasury deploys people to municipalities where there is no competency, and those people transfer skills.
Yeah.
All the municipalities who rely on consultants, we will encourage them that draw those contracts to an end. The treasury is going to assist, and at COGTA, there is a wing, MISA, which assists in municipalities that are struggling to use the capital funding, the MIG, because there are no engineers in the area, because the municipality is in deep rural area. The COGTA has a way of intervening in assisting the municipality to deal with capital projects, even in the face of not having competent employees in as far as engineering is concerned.
All right. Minister Nkosini Hlabisa, thank you so much for making time for us on Face the Nation tonight. All right, let's go back to that question we've been asking you tonight about whether you are satisfied with how those mentioned in that affidavit by Chifiwa Matodzi have responded to the claims. What do you expect them to do? Let's take a look at some of your tweets that have come through. Gift on X says, remember that the matter is sub judice and anything they utter now can and will be used against them in the courts of law. Makhala says, let Matodzi provide evidence as he alleges. It cannot be that people start running around because some fraudsters alleged misleading them. Interview Matodzi or Truta. Patria says, we expect the NPA to do its job and file the charges. There won't be a trial by the media on VBS. That will be a violation of the rights of those mentioned in that affidavit. Thank you so much for the WhatsApp voice notes that have come through so far. Always appreciate you engaging with us. We'll be back on Face the Nation on Thursday at 8 p.m. Have a good evening. Thanks for watching. Cheers.